Hey, good morning, everyone. This is a regular scheduled work session of the Board of Stark County Commissioners. It's 9/23/19, first day of August. Let the record reflect Commissioner Creighton, Commissioner Smith, and Commissioner Regular are present, along with Administrator Brant Luther and our Budget Director Chris Nichols, and we're going to talk Marcs radio system with Major Anderson. So, Major.
Yes, sir. This is a follow-up to our discussion last Wednesday, I believe. And the issue at hand is our radio system is working extremely well. We planned and designed the system expecting about 2,200 radios on the system. Due to the overwhelming success of the system, and especially the fire marshal grant that's got all of our fire departments to migrate to the new system, we're going to be having about 3,300 radios on the system. So about a third more than what we built the system for. So we have 14 talk pads, if you will, in our current simulcast array. We have 11 towers. Each of those towers are linked together, so we can actually have 14 separate communications at the same time. So as an example, the city police department might be talking on the radio, one of our deputies out on the road, city fire, our jail, Jackson Township Police and Fire. We can have 14 simultaneous talk pads at the same time. Now, when you have the 15th person push to talk, if there's 14 talk pads being used, they have to wait. It's called a busy out, which, if it's a sanitary engineer that's having some kind of communication about a sewer project or whatnot, that's probably less impactful than if a deputy or police officer is trying to make a stop or is calling for help. We've had, since the system went live on April 1st, we've had 68 occurrences of busy outs during that time. Now, last Tuesday, we had 5 busy outs at the busy hour, which occurred at like 1:43 in the afternoon, and there was quite a bit of use of the system here at that time. Plus, the Highway Patrol was involved in probably what you've seen of the great truck chase of 2019 that started up in Wyandotte County and it curled around and came into Shockton County. So they were using the system, which is expected. So the bottom line is we have found that we have busy outs during the busy time. And our original contract with Motorola, we asked for, and they granted us to keep their contract open with us until we went through the summer months and the busy times to determine whether or not we needed more infrastructure. So in interaction with the engineers and looking at the analytical data, we know we need another talk path to somewhat insulate us from busy outs, but adding 2 talk paths will basically give us what we need, which is all the capacity for any imaginable bad day. Now, that being said, if sometime in the future we have the world's worst day in public safety, we will have busy outs. You can't build a system so you can guarantee no busy outs. But by adding 2 talk pads, we are guaranteeing our public safety officers the likelihood that they will never experience busy out in the future. So,
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Could you take sanitary, when you get say you have an event like you were talking about, could you just kick sanitary out?
Well,
or could you kind of kick some of the non-first responders out?
2 things would happen there. Number one, good management of the radio system would say that if we know, well, for example, when we have the Hall of Fame again next year, we will remind again everybody that's using the system that that's an extremely busy time. So keep your traffic to a minimum. Now, that's one way to police the system internally. The other thing that will happen is we actually have the sanitary engineer radios at a lower priority than our public safety. Okay. So let's just say that we're all users of the radio system. There's 8 of us, and let's say there's only there's 7 talk pads, just for example. And I'm the sanitary guy, and you guys are all police and fire. If you all key up, and I key up at the same time that the commissioner keys up, she will get the last talk path because she's public safety. Okay. So we have that to kind of mitigate the situation. So those are 2 ways that we manage it. And I will say that our radio traffic has been well managed. used the radios very efficiently in looking at that data since April 1st. But once again, the bottom line comes down, we got 3,300 radios on the system rather than 22. So at the meeting last Wednesday, you asked me to do two things. Number one, go back to Motorola, who had already given us a quote of $568,000 to do a complete update or upgrade of the system. And so I went back to Motorola, said $568,000 is too much. We only have $500,000 to spend. And after they checked up their chain of command, they said okay, and they sent us what you have in front of you is a change order. The other thing you asked us to do is get a hold of Marcs and let them know, make sure that they were okay with it, and to determine whether or not they wanted to give us any kind of additional break because we're adding this to the system. And their answer to that, unofficially, but from the director of Marcs, is, well, we are giving you a break. You're able to add that $500,000 to the capital monies that we're showing to them as being spent, which gives us our credit. So from where I stand, I don't believe they're going to give us that rate holiday that we asked for. But we did ask for it, and we'll ask for it again if and when we approve the change order.
So how is it that when we spend $500,000, that benefits, we understand how it benefits us with the radio,
Right.
but monetarily, how can they figure that benefits us? I mean, if we don't get some sort of a help, so we get more credits that we can't use.
Right.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I got more cake in the table that I can eat. So what do I need these other 3 cakes for if I can't even eat what I got?
And I pointed that out to them. The director of Marcs is going to run that up to their chain of command, which, if you remember, it's all new as a result of the administration change. I guess my thought would be we probably shouldn't hold our breath.
It benefits them too.
It does
Yeah,
benefit
it is
them,
going to benefit
Yeah.
them. I think that's the thing we really got to be pushing. Because they won't hit the busies either now.
What I would think we probably ought to do is make that request a little bit more formal and send it to up the chain of command from the president and the commissioners to see if we can't have more, more consideration.
Yeah, I mean, we need to push hard on
Who's at
that.
the top of the chain of command?
Well, the governor obviously is at the top, but then one level down is a Mr. Dan Schroeder, who is the director of the Department of Administrative Services. Now, speaking of that, he comes from county government.
Yeah, he does.
So there may be some resonance there. He was Franklin County, and I don't know, he was an elected official in Franklin County, but I'm not sure what it was.
And we got to try it.
Yeah, exactly. So what you have in front of you is the change order they've proposed. It went way up the chain of command in Motorola. They've actually electronically signed it. And what they ask, and once again, this is the end of the quarter, they ask for some kind of assurance by us by this Wednesday so that they can book their business, which they have to book by Thursday. And I looked over the document, and I believe it's complete and correct. And the customer on page 3 obviously is us. So if you look on page 2, you'll see what our customer responsibilities are, and that's execute the change order, get it back to Motorola by Thursday the 26th. Then Motorola will guarantee they ship the equipment this year. We had to provide 2 new 700 megahertz channels that will work within the combiner frequency and provide licensing for both frequencies. That's already done. I interacted with the frequency coordinator for the state of Ohio, and he has 2 sets of frequency pairs ready to go. And quite honestly, that would be the biggest risk to add any kind of capacity to any system, and that is whether or not you have frequency. So that has been taken care of. And I believe that's the rest of the story.
Yeah, I would assume we have the almost $130,000 credit remaining from the initial
Right.
portion of the project, so
$129,653.
the additional cash or PO from us would be $370. And I assume there's the 60% of the contract is due on shipment of the equipment. I assume we could utilize that $130 against that first payment.
Yes, yes. And if you recall, as far as the payment to Motorola, they're pretty easy to get along with. As far as the day the equipment's shipped, they probably issue the bill, but then obviously we're good for it, so you don't have to work overtime on Friday afternoon to get it done. They're pretty.
What if I want to?
You could, yes, sir.
Daryl, I'm just looking at the Marcs agreement now, and I don't have the full exhibits A and B, but that would add equipment to one of those exhibits.
That's
correct?
right. It would add equipment to Exhibit B.
So will we need to execute a quick, short amendment with the state reflecting those new items?
I think that would be logical,
Warranty.
and because we still haven't sent them our package that shows what all we get, it goes to the credits, and the reason we haven't done that, I believe, is because we was waiting to see what we did here. So yes, we could get Motorola to also update that Exhibit B and A if we need to, and I can't remember exactly what A was.
I think that was the tower sites.
Yes, there. Okay, you're right.
That wouldn't change.
That wouldn't change.
The
Just
equipment list would change.
Right, yeah, the equipment list would change, and that would show at each of the 11 sites, it'll go from 15 repeaters to 17. Now, the reason it's 17 and not 16 is one of those repeaters is actually the control channel, which, in this intelligent environment, it's like a cell phone. Your cell phone has to have a handshake with a tower, and the only way that can be done is with a frequency handshake. So this will be the 16th and 17th repeater that gives us 16 talk pads.
The reason I say that is I see that the state does cover the maintenance costs, so
Yes.
I want to make sure that
That was the first thing that Marc's director pointed out was, well, they're not going to tell us that they can't afford it, but they did point out that it costs more money.
So they're going to pay that $63,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no maintenance cost for us. And of course, the first year of these two repeaters, the maintenance is all warranty. So let's say that they light them up on January 1st of 2020, then there would be no maintenance cost until January 1st of 2021. And we'll work with Motorola on that. We probably ought to think about lighting them up as late as we can, because if you think about it, if we don't have them up and running by Thanksgiving, which will be our next busy time, the likelihood of a busy time deep in the winter is less than in the summer. So we'll work with Motorola on that.
Mr. Budget Director, what do you think?
Well, from a financing standpoint, one, we have the $130,000 credit, so the net increase to us for this project is really $370 over what we've already committed through purchase orders. From a capital standpoint, we just had the bid opening for the elevators, and I had those estimated, at least slotted in at $1.5 million. They came in about $1 million. There's going to be change orders, but from a capital standpoint, utilizing what's been set aside between those two projects, the money's there, non-impactful measures.
Well, I just think it's the time to do it. And then continue to make Stark County a safer place.
The system has done exactly what we thought it would do, and there's been innumerable times where we've been able to have firefighters talk to cops and vice versa, where in the prior days they couldn't. Probably the most recent example is now Perry Township Fire, which obviously butts up to Massillon and also butts up to Jackson Township, and they routinely have mutual aid. They now can talk to each other, so that's a big benefit.
Is this a case of being a victim of our own success? I mean,
Definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
we've built it, and now they've come, and it's working wonderfully, and we need to expand it a little more.
I think 2 years ago, I don't think we could have hoped to be where we are. And once again, that fire marshal grant helped a lot. That 800 and some thousand we got from the fire marshal really, if you will, helped change the operational minds of the fire agency. So that helped out tremendously.
There's a reason the state came in and said we'll be the model in how it was done, because there's so many that jumped on it and seen the value. And so, I mean, it's just a great system. Like you said, with the two being able to talk together. I mean, the success stories are already out there. So, no, hey, we did better than we thought. That was okay, because it's going to do better. So the last thing we want to do is just that little bit short, So it works out good. I mean, with the money being there, so that's a good time to do it.
It goes without saying that if we don't do it now, the price does nothing to go up.
Probably twice as much if we do it outside of the contract. Because each of these devices, I think the retail price is like $139,000. So if you multiply that by 10, that's $1.3 million. So the financial numbers, if we can afford it, certainly tell us to do it now.
Okay.
We'd have paid more than this in the project initially. If we'd have asked for 16 originally, we would have ended up paying more than what we're paying now. So it's worked out well for us.
So are you okay for a requisition for Wednesday, get everything in line? And then at the same time, working with Motorola to get that equipment list and get the amendment to the Marcs agreement in the pipeline, not done by Wednesday. I don't think we can achieve that by any stretch.
All we need would have this signed on Wednesday so that Motorola knows that it's moving forward. And then we can work with Motorola to get the updated Marcs contract, and we'll continue to work with Marcs. But I believe, some kind of formal communication with Mr. Dan Schroeder may result in some additional benefit to us.
Yeah, it's not okay.
Now, will we need to be here on Wednesday?
Probably would have heard.
Okay.
We're both here.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already here.
Anybody that has questions probably would be here now. So I don't think, does the board need any additional information?
No, I mean, like I say,
They're already here.
Ask the questions.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.